Hi, I'm Prasenjit Dey. And what I'm going to do is, focus on a very interesting topic. And if you're able to really understand this, it's going to impact every part of your life. Uh, the quality of life, which is essentially about your business, your career, your personal life, your health, your well-being, and your spiritual health. It's going to touch every aspect of your life. And I can promise you this today. Now, before I really get into the subject, let me try and help you understand what is personality first. I think let's start with the very basic definition of personality. It's your personal reality, and what is essentially personality? It refers to an individual's characteristic, style, behavior, mindset, attitude, his own unique way of perceiving things and seeing the world the way they see it. That's essentially it's the reality that's created by an individual, and that becomes your personal reality, which in turn becomes your personality. Now that is impacted to a large extent by communication. Now, before I really get into the model of communication, let me try and visualize this for you. Now, if you were to see, there are two individuals. They happen to go to the same school. They stay in the same neighborhood. They're born with the same parents, and they have almost the same upbringing. And yet, their decisions in life take them to a different course. It can very well happen that one becomes extremely successful and the other one not so successful, although they had a similar upbringing and had gone through the same challenges, yet their lives have kind of diverged at some point in time. That the diversion has happened because of the decisions that have taken place. Now, to really understand this, what I would try and do is to just help you visualize what typically happens. Now, at any given moment, at any point in time, there is an external event that happens, and that's something in our consciousness. Now, this external event creates a reality, a reality web in which we are all entangled. Now, what typically happens is this is nothing but your stimulus. Now, just to tell you the kind of information and data that gets shared at any point in time, there are almost 2 million bits per second of data and information that gets shared. Now, 2 million bits per second. Just can you imagine the amount of information that's coming your way and it's trying to grab your attention? Now, bits is the smallest denominator through which you're measuring your data and information. Now, if you're aware of what bits is, so after bits you have bytes, you have megabytes, then gigabytes, terabytes, so that's how information and data is measured. Now, this is the kind of information that you're grappling with. Now, how does this information reach you? Is through five essentially means. One is your vision, your visual stimulus. So you see things around you and you form some kind of impression or perception about things, and that's your visual. Then you have your auditory, so which is about hearing, listening, things that happen around you, and you form some meaning, some interpretation out of it. Then you have kinesthetics, which is about an activity. It's about touch, feel, your texture that you add to, or meaning that you add to anything that you touch, feel, or hold. Your olfactory, which is nothing, just in terms of your smell, your sense of smell, what you extremely important, because sometimes you enter a room and you get a feeling about how the whole atmosphere is, not by seeing anything but just getting a sense of the place or the food that is served to you, whether it is good or bad to taste, right? So olfactory is what defines. And then the last one is your gustatory, which is nothing but your sense of taste. So these are the five essential kind of tools through which you gather all this information. So 2 million bits per second. Now all that information doesn't reach you, because what we typically do is only, and someone had asked me this question some time back, saying what percentage of this 2 million bits per second information is actually something that is absorbed by you. And my guess was close to around 80 to 90% of that information is what comes to us. But I was really startled when I went through the data, which said only 134 bits per second of information is what is absorbed. So what you're essentially doing is you're filtering out 1.99999 million bits of information, which don't come to us at all. So you're almost deleting it at the right in the beginning. So that information does not even reach us. Now, very interesting, right? Now, what essentially is then happening? Now, with this information coming in, so there is a filter, so your mind puts a filter to kind of interpret the data. It is exactly how it would happen in a computer as well, or in any programming, right? So that information comes, and there are three filters that are essentially working on. One is deletion. So essentially, if you were to look what that deletion really means is, so let's say that you have said something, to an individual. So you had an interaction, you said something in some context, and then this individual goes out and talks to someone else, deleting the core of what you've said, and has translated and shared an information which sounds very different from what you said. So there is a selective deletion of the message or the information that was given, right? So that's exactly what happens in our mind. So it deletes information that it does not perceive to be very important or is not able to comprehend. And therefore the deletion happens because this piece of information is no more relevant for that, for the mind. The second is distortion. And our mind always has a bias for negativity. So how does distortion happen? And I'll give you a classic example. You meet a friend, a friend who is slightly indifferent, slightly drawn, otherwise very efficient, very great, in terms of the relationship with you. But let's say you just praise this individual, saying that, oh, this is a fantastic, jacket that you're wearing. Where have you bought this from? And he perceives this to be not genuine. He thinks it is you're mocking at him, or you're trying to laugh at him, or you're trying to pull him down. And there is a distortion that happens of the message. Although what your intention was very different, and how he or she has perceived that information is very different. So there's a distortion, and that's exactly. Sometimes the message is distorted and translated in a way which the mind feels is more reliable or makes more sense. Now that's the second part of it. And the third part is generalizing. Generalizing, like, you love soccer. For someone, soccer has a certain meaning, but for the other person, soccer might not have any meaning at all. You like a game of cricket, might have some meaning. You're generalizing that, and for someone else, that does not have any meaning at all. So there's a bit of generalizing that happens in the mind. So you see a stream of thoughts that come to you. It's bucketed and put together under some area where the mind really understands, and then it's generalized. Now, how are these three things working? These three filters are working is through a software, and this is a software. This is what I tend to call a programming that we are born with. What is it? So it's a metaprogramming. It's a programming that you're already born with, which is essentially a combination of your language, of your memories, of your past. It's essentially nothing but your past. Your values, your beliefs that you've kind of got, which comes from your past experiences. Now that's what basically helps in this entire filtration process. So this is the programming that runs the filters. Now, what is then happening? When these filters are running. So what typically happens is there is an internal representation of an information. So let's say, and it's interesting, this internal representation is the meaning that's formed because of this information that comes your way. So just think of it. 134 bits per second of information comes your way. There is a filter which is delete, distort, or generalize, and which is then governed by the software or programming which is there built in, which is metaprogramming your language, your memories, your values, and your beliefs. And then that essentially drives your internal representation, how you perceive that information and your reaction to it. Now, just to give an example, someone just tells you that you've won $1 million lottery ticket today, and suddenly you start feeling excited. What it does is that piece of information that come your way has given you a certain representation, that there's hope, there is belief, there is confidence, and you feel that you've got something which can really add value to you, your life, your family, your social circle, your business, whatever. So you've got a certain amount of money. Let's assume for this discussion, 1 million rupees, right? Now, what it does is it creates an emotional, it evokes an emotion, right? It's creating that excitement. The moment I'm talking about this 1 million, it's almost creating this emotion within me that I've got this 1 million. Now there's a certain amount of energy that is raised, and it changes my state, and I'm more confident. I sense a lot of hope. I see a lot of positivity out there, and it changes my physiology. It changes how my entire disposition, my body and everything else, So everything is now more synchronized. My mind and everything is so much more controlled. I feel in control of everything around me. And that essentially now is driving my behavior. Now, every action that I'm going to do is going to be governed by this behavior. Now, let's say that I have this 1 million and tomorrow I decide to go out there and buy a car, So I say that I have 1 million rupees, dollars, and I want to go and buy a vehicle. And now that's going to drive my behavior, right? And that's how I'm going to manifest something. So this essentially, so your internal representation, the meaning that you give to that piece of information, changes your emotion, your state, which in turn changes your physiology, which drives your behavior. Now that behavior in turn drives your decision. This is where you drive where your decisions are taken, and this essentially creates results. Now, in short, if you were to just summarize everything that's happening around you, there is an external event. Now, just to reframe this once again, there is an external event, which is your reality. There is so much amount of information that comes your way, almost 2 million bits per second of information that comes your way. Only 134 bits per second of information is what you absorb. There are filters which try to screen the information that comes your way, and these filters are governed or managed by a software that is your past, your memories, your language, and the programming that you've got into. And through that, there is an internal representation, which is essentially the meaning that you give. So as I said about that $1 million that you've won as a lottery, it evokes a certain amount of emotion, energy. It changes your state, and then it changes your physiology, your entire, your demeanor, the way you come across. And then this in turn drives your behavior, and which in turn drives your decisions, and then thereby creating those results. Now, if that's one thing that you all can understand, and you are able to shift that reality, so which is to say that I will control what that 134 bits per second of information that comes my way. So I'm not so much worried about this 2 million bits per second in any way, which ways my mind is going to filter out that 134, which means I'm consciously able to make a decision of the things that comes across in my mind. If I'm able to bring more and more positive thoughts, now just try and understand this. If I'm able to bring in more and more positive thoughts into my mind, things which would inspire me, which would push me forward, which creates a desire in me to move the paddle, this in turn is going to have an extremely strong, create a very strong emotion within me, and which is going to change my physiology. So which means if I can control this 134 bits per second of information, it's going to completely dramatically change my life. And that's the most important thing that one needs to look into. So if you are able to comprehend what I just spoke about today, and this can fundamentally shift your behavior, your decision-making capability, and the results. You can reverse engineer your life in a very positive way, and then you can take control of everything that happens around you. In the next session, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on communication and influence, and how that can be further shaped through a very strong understanding of how questions, asking the right questions can shape the kind of responses you have. And that would be an interesting topic. So you could look forward to that. And thank you so much for your time. And I hope you've loved this video of mine. And please click on the subscribe button and the link below to listen to more such interesting videos in the future. Thank you so much.